Welcome back. Welcome back. Episode 61 of the Sicko Sports Podcast. Thank you guys for being here. If you're watching, I hope you had a good weekend. I know I sure as hell did. UFC Vegas 57, is that right? Yeah, UFC Vegas 57 is a wrap. Sometimes I get confused with the numbers. You know, UFC Fight Nights, they just call it by the names of the main event, Tsarukyan and Gamrot. It was a great card all around. These free fight nights, right? If you didn't watch or if you're new to the UFC, you don't know exactly how they kind of outline and play out. You have usually pay-per-views followed by a fight night, sometimes a couple fight nights and another pay-per-view. The fight nights, free, well, kind of free. You have to get an ESPN Plus subscription to watch the main card. Most of the prelims, usually the prelims are going to be on like ESPN2 or ESPN, the regular channels, but it's not a pay-per-view. You don't have to spend all that type of money because, you know, we all buy all the pay-per-views, right? And they go hard, man. Sometimes they're just the sleepers. Sometimes those cards are the sleepers, which I can't say for the last pay-per-view. The last pay-per-view was one of the best pay-per-views we've seen in a while, but these free cards of fight nights go hard, man. They usually are sleepers. If you want to see great fights, watch the prelims, watch everything. This is going to be a deep dive into the entire card, and then some news on an upcoming card that they just announced during this time in a commercial break. They announced a full card, a full main card at least, and we'll dive into that as well. But I wanted to start in the main card. We'll start at the bottom, work our way up to the main event, and then we'll circle back and hit some of the prelims. That way you don't have to sit here. And I'll have the chapter markers always if you ever want to see a specific breakdown. If you want to get to a specific fight, I'll have the chapter markers underneath. That way you can just kind of zoom through if you don't want to watch the entire thing, which, you know, I'd appreciate it. Be cool if you did. Yeah, here we go. Chris Curtis, Rodolfo Rivera. Obviously, Chris Curtis wins. Unanimous decision for Chris Curtis, so that was nice on his end. For Chris Curtis, you know, it was kind of one of those fights where Rodolfo Viera just didn't have enough, in my opinion, enough paths to victory. The stand-up game, I think Chris Curtis kind of had that advantage. To me, the body shots are what changed the difference or made the difference in the fight. Chris Curtis not just head-hunting, really working the body shots, landing some big shots. He even said after the fight that he hit him a couple times with everything he had, and he was surprised that he was still standing or that he was at least still coming forward on them, that he didn't cripple him with those body shots, because he was like, man, I put everything behind him, and he ate him. Like, it landed clean, and I was surprised that he didn't drop. And that was the deciding factor to me, was those body shots that Chris Curtis was landing. And Rodolfo Vieira, very good on the ground. Good grappler, submission artist, a guy who, you know, Chris Curtis, if you remember the face-offs, I think it was the weigh-ins, the official weigh-ins, they came in and Chris Curtis automatically like got down and was, you know, playing around, saying, come in the guard, you know, hinting to the fact that like, hey, he knows what Rodolfo Vieira's path to victory is. The problem with Viera, and you see this problem a lot with jiu-jitsu guys, is their jiu-jitsu is great, but how great is their wrestling? Can you get to the point where your jiu-jitsu starts playing into a factor? Can you get the wrestling? Can you take him down and get into position where you feel like now you can attack with submissions? And Viera just wasn't able to. His wrestling just wasn't good enough. And Chris Curtis, not a terrible wrestler. I'm not going to say that, you know, oh, if you can't take him down, you can't take anybody down. Chris Curtis is solid in his own right, but Chris Curtis isn't known as some great grappler, somebody who you just, hey, you're not going to take this dude down. He's not known as that guy. And I think even you can sense it in how he was talking pre-fight, where it was a big concern for him. Like, I just need to stay up. I need to get this standing. I can't let him take me down. Usually when people have that, it's because they know that that's kind of where their weakness is in the takedown defense. So shout out Chris Curtis, unanimous decision, did enough there. And next fight, I believe it was Umar, or was it Thiago? Umar Nurmagomedov, Nate Maness. If you remember, I was talking a little crap about Umar Nurmagomedov and that team, especially when it comes to Umar and Islam Makhachev in particular. This was the biggest favorite on the card was Umar Nurmagomedov. Obviously, Manis was the biggest underdog of the entire card. Just one of those fights that it's just, you wish you were going to get something. And usually when you see, this is a problem with Umar. This is the issue that I'm seeing with him, especially throughout the MMA community and how people are perceiving him and how he's being treated. Just so many tweets and memes and people saying that it was a snooze fest. He's boring. People posting things like them sleeping during their fight. And it was boring. Like, let's make no mistake about it. That fight was boring. It was boring for two reasons, right? It takes two to tango in a boring fight. I can go back and talk to you about Izzy and Yoel Romero and tell you why that fight was boring. And a lot of people say, well, it was boring because of Izzy. No, so it was boring because of both of them. And in this situation, very similar. The only difference is it was boring in the grappling exchanges, but it was boring for two reasons. Reason number one, Umar, when he got the takedowns, which he did with ease, when he got the takedowns, he wasn't really looking for the finish. He didn't have that sense of urgency that you would like for somebody when you're landing down shots, when Habib is winning, when Islam's at their best, they're raining down shots. It's that smash mentality, smashing the guys, looking for submissions. You punch them, beat them up, batter them until they soften up, and then go into for the submissions. They make mistakes. They give their back. They're just tired. They're beat up. They're hurt. And then they make the mistake that gives you the submission, or you just keep pounding away until the ref stops the fight. That's what we look for when you're that dominant in a specific department of the fight, which Umar was. The problem was Umar was more concerned, or at least it seemed to be, that his priority was maintaining position and just being very heavy on top and just constant pressure from a top position, being heavy, weigh on him, don't give up position, wasn't looking to pass too much, wasn't really willing to take the risks in passing guard and changing your positions to look for submission attempts or possibly get to a back or get into kind of a half guard where you can posture up or side control or maybe even a crucifix, something that's going to give you an opportunity to rain down some shots. And he just wasn't posturing up. Even when he's sitting in full guard, wouldn't posture up. The times that he did pass in a half guard, wouldn't posture up. So it was tough. He threw some elbows. He landed some elbows. But that's number one of why that fight was boring, is Umar's lack of aggressiveness towards the finish. And reason number two, Manis was in the fight too. You know what I mean? Like, Manis is there too. If Manis had any bit of threat off his back, maybe the fight becomes more interesting. If Manis had any ability to prevent a takedown or at least make Umar really work for takedowns, where the takedowns become a lot more technical and a lot more savvy, and you see the immediate stuff and the immediate resistance, and it's just a relentless efforts and creativity to get the takedowns, that would make it more interesting, but it wasn't. Whenever Umar wanted to get the takedown, it was pretty easy. Wasn't a whole lot of resistance to it. And whenever he was on the ground, Manis did a decent enough job not letting him pass too easily. There's a couple submission attempts that Umar tried to have. There was a arm triangle where he was trying to get into. Manis was hip to it, prevented it, but it was too easy to get the takedowns, and Manis did nothing threatening off his back, had no opportunity to get up. And when that's the case, it's an easy path to victory for Umar. Again, it's very similar to the Adesanya and Yoel Romero fight, where you look at those two and you go, well, why didn't Adesanya do more? Why didn't he land bigger shots? Why didn't he, he didn't finish them and it was boring and they just stood there, and it's like, yeah, but that was kind of an easy path to victory for him because this guy's not coming forward. Yoel would blitz maybe once a round would he come forward. Other than that, he was just standing still. So Izzy's like, I could just stand here and kick your legs over and over. Yeah, I'm not doing much damage. Yeah, it's not exciting. Yeah, it's boring, but this is the easiest win I could possibly get. So how do you blame these guys for taking the easy wins? Now, again, you're going to be criticized for it, and I feel the criticism's fair, but it takes two to tango. And this was my gripe with the UFC matchmakers when I saw this fight. It was just like, this guy, like, we want to see more interesting fights. So I thought maybe best case scenario, Umar shows out, takes him down, ground and pound, finishes the fight in the first round, and it's like, all right, cool. The minus 900 did what the minus 900 is supposed to do. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. We had a round We had a fight go to decision on a minus 900, and it was just the easiest 30-27 you can imagine. The easiest victory you could see. So it's tough to go through that. Like, it's tough for us to watch it, but it is what it is. Umar, another win, stays undefeated. He did have a really cool little front kick. It was like kind of like a front push kick to the face in there, which was really good. Umar's kicks are good. And that's the thing. Umar has a... Guys, don't think I'm saying Umar Nurmagomedov doesn't have the skills, or I'm saying that he's overrated in some way. That's not what I mean. The minus 900 was for a reason. It's because he's so much better than this guy, and there's just no way I can see this guy beating Umar, right? Sorry, Nate Maness, but there's no way I can see this guy, kind of disrespectful. There's no way I can see Nate Maness beating Umar Nurmagomedov, and that speaks to the volume of Umar. That speaks to his level, right? How good Umar Nurmagomedov is in there. Yeah, we understand that. Nothing taken away from him. It's just at some point, we gotta see something that's going to test him. Can you be a draw for us? Can you have some sort of excitement? And you saw with the front push kick, hey, if you have a guy that has some good resistance, that doesn't allow takedowns like this, that can threaten off his back, then maybe we see some more stand-up from Umar. Maybe we see Umar get to a point where he has to look for a submission, where he has to look to do some real damage, where he has to look to possibly get a finish, or use his kicks, use his striking to set up takedowns. It was just no resistance. There was no plan B for Umar Nurmagomedov. There was never a point in that fight where he had to change his game plan, or he had to adjust to what Maness was doing. It was just, whatever I want to do here, I'm going to do, and I should just do what's easiest, which is take him down to the ground, hold him there, land a few elbows, get 3 minutes of control time each round, and go on home. Like, you can't really blame him. So good for him. Stays undefeated. I really hope we get to see more of his potential, more of his skill set in the next fight, whoever that may be against. Next on the list was Thiago Moises and Christos Gallegos. Sorry. Thiago Moises, a guy who had recently fought Islam Makhachev, did a pretty decent job. He actually did have a little bit of resistance in that fight. Islam, still a little too good for Thiago in those situations, was able to win that fight. Impressive win for Islam in that regard. But I'm a big fan of Thiago Moises, man. Thiago Moises is nasty. His jiu-jitsu is nasty. He even admitted it after the fight, saying, maybe I need to use my jiu-jitsu a little bit more. I get to these points where maybe I don't, maybe I fall in love with my striking a little bit too much, and I get to these points where I'm like, man, I really should be using my wrestling. I really should be trying to get to people's backs. I really should be trying to get into positions where I can use my jiu-jitsu a little bit more, and I haven't really been doing that. And boy, did he do it in this fight. Goes in there, immediately looks for the takedown. The thing I loved about it was the transition. He goes for the takedown, ends up getting him. Gallegos pops back up, immediately gets to the back. First thing he does is throw in that body triangle, gets his legs wrapped around his waist, gets in the body triangle to hold that position. He was a little high. You saw him kind of frame off of his head to keep himself up so he doesn't slip off the front. And then gets under the neck, right? He's fighting, their hand fighting. He finally gets under the chin, gets to that neck, sinks up a one-handed rear naked choke, which is very uncommon. I think was the last person Randy Brown against Cowboy Oliveira. Was it Randy Brown that fought Cowboy Oliveira? I'll pull it up for you guys, but I know it was against Cowboy. I don't remember who it was. I could have sworn it was Randy Brown. I could be wrong. But one-handed rear nakeds don't happen too much. Again, if you're new to this, if you're new to MMA, rear naked choke, obviously you want to get your arm under their neck or under their chin, around the neck. But the other hand, you want to come around their head. You usually use this one to add more leverage. Hide it with your head, push in, and their head is here. You're around the neck. Usually how you sink in a rear naked. One armed is obviously a lot tougher because this is what adds that extra pressure and really tightens the choke. What he did was when he was here, he just put this on the elbow and used that as leverage, which you got to be really, really strong in order to do that, because at the same time, he's still pulling on your arms. He can find the hands easily and pull. You just got to be stronger than him and put all of the squeeze into it to make him tap, which he did. Big win for Thiago Moises, gets him back on the winning streak. He's good, man. He's no scrub. He's not an easy fighter. He's not an easy win for anybody. I mean, Islam, not to say that he had Islam hurt or he was winning that fight or anything of that nature, but Islam was, what I mentioned about Manis, where can you make him dig deep? Can you make him change the game plan? Can you force something out of him that we're not used to seeing, right? Can you make him show us more tools? Can you at least present that resistance to a guy who may be a big favorite against you? Maybe you're not there on that skill level as them, especially when it comes to wrestling. You're not there with where they are. You can't really prevent those takedowns, but you can do enough to make it interesting and at least make them adapt to what you're doing in there instead of just you trying every way to adapt to what they're doing and have no success. But great fight for Thiago Moises. Josh Purisian, Alan Baudou, whatever. That was a really good fight as well. Parisian got dropped early in that fight. I really thought that fight was going to be over, to be honest. He got hurt in the first round, was dropped, but then started wrestling his ass off. And for his opponent, I'm not going to keep butchering his name, I'm just going to say Alan. For Alan, it was tough to watch because he was, had the striking advantage pretty clearly. Hit him with some uppercuts, hit him with a nasty shot, dropped him, had him hurt. Looked like he was going to finish, was landing some nasty ground and pound, some hammer fists on him. He had such an advantage there. But his wrestling defense, I don't know, guys. I don't remember. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Parisian's just that good of a wrestler. Maybe Parisian's just like the best heavyweight wrestler in the division. But Allen's wrestling defense looked terrible. It just, when you talk about no resistance, and then he gassed, the finish came in the second round. He was gassed by the end of the first. At the end of the first round, we saw Parisian was landing shots, looking at the ref, trying to get a stoppage, didn't quite get the stoppage, got into the second round, and immediately knew what the game plan was, knew exactly what he needed to do to win this fight, felt all the confidence now, hey, I can take this guy down really easily, does it, gets into position again, and eventually, same thing, starts raining down shots until the ref actually does stop it this time. But that wrestling defense of his was pretty bad. Pretty bad. And then next was, I think Rakhmonov was the next one. Rakhmonov, Neil Magny, that was the one I was really, really excited about. I kept saying time and time again how and highly anticipated this fight was for me. It's the one that I actually looked forward to a little bit more, which in hindsight, I should have been looking forward to Tsarukyan and Gamrot, which I said, we'll get to it. But I did say that fight was going to be extremely high level and very technical, that both guys were extremely well-rounded, and I didn't know how that was going to go. But this one I was looking forward to just because, you know me, I'm a hype train guy. I am Mr. Hype Train. I jump on him. I will never, being a hater, I don't know what that looks like, and I don't want to live that life. I don't ever want to live the life of a hater. I'm the type of guy that, hey, if you like it, I love it, baby. Like, I'm all for it. If we got a hype train, let me roll with it. Who is this? Ian Gary? I'm on the hype train. Patty the Batty? I'm on the hype train. Sean O'Malley? On the hype train. Hamzat Chimaev? On the hype train. Shavkat Rakhmonov? On the hype train. Like, if there's a hype train coming in, because why wouldn't you want to see greatness? You want to see all of those guys lose? And then what? You just have divisions be stagnant, and you have a bunch of title, you have the title change hands constantly. Like, man, we're not in for mediocre. We're not in for that. The reason why we fall in love, the reason why Michael Jordan sells the shoes, why LeBron sells the shoes, why Tom Brady sells whatever he sells, why all these guys do what they do is because we like greatness. So whenever I see the hype train, yeah, I want the next Conor McGregor. They're all called the next Conor McGregor, and I want to see that. I want to see one of those guys get the Lamborghini yacht. I want to see one of those guys have all these things. Maybe not get in illegal trouble. Maybe act a little more accordingly. Maybe be a little bit, less brash outside of the octagon. But I want to see them have the success. Man, I ain't a hater. I like seeing it. So when I see Rakhmonov this is a fight that I was so excited for because now here we are. You have Neil Magny. Not saying Neil Magny is a litmus test to see if you're a championship, whether you should be favored to win the title or not. But Neil Magny's a good test, man. Neil Magny is a legit top 15 dude. In my opinion, Neil Magny's always hung around the 10 spot. He's always going to kind of hang around the 10 spot. He's durable. He puts a pace on people. He's well-rounded. Not unbelievable on the feet, not unbelievable on the ground, but well enough, smart, savvy vet. This was a really good test for Rakhmonov, and I said, hey, if he comes out here and wins a decision victory, that's a split decision, people are going to jump off of the train. People are going to be off of it very quickly. But if he dominates, he gets him out of there early, and he makes light work of Neil Magny, you're going to see everybody overreact and start saying, title shot. They're going to start mentioning the Hamzats. They're going to start mentioning the Colbys. They're going to start mentioning Kamaru Usman. They're going to bypass everybody. And I said, if he makes light work of him, you're going to see him bypass a lot of people. And boy, did he do so. Stays unbeaten. Gets yet another finish. Second round submission. 3 seconds left in that round. The first round got him down. Held position. Did what he was supposed to do. Again, very tough to keep Neil Magny on the mat, to keep him on his back the entire time, but he was able to do so. And that fight had very little pieces of it that were standing. We had very few and far between striking sequences, but when we did, kind of looked like Rakhmonov had the advantage there too. Like there was a couple times when Neil was missing. He got countered once or twice where he was like, oh shit. I was like, oh, Rakhmonov's better on the feet too. If he has this advantage again, when you start seeing past the victory clear out, when you start seeing, okay, maybe you win this way, and you start seeing those paths diminish, if you're seeing it as just an observer, if you're watching it as just a spectator, imagine what the fighter's in there feeling when he's thinking, keep this fight standing, all of a sudden you miss, you get countered, you're getting jabs in the face, you're getting pushed back, you're like, whoa. If I can't win this way, I don't know how I could win. And very similar to Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje, right? Very first fight, very first moment of that fight, very first punch that's thrown is Charles Oliveira landing a huge right hand that kind of gets Gaethje hopping on one foot. And it was like, oh shit, okay. Gaethje had his moments and all of that good stuff. But, it just leads you to that situation where it has to sit in your head, because it sits in our head as spectators to go, oh, if he can't win this way, he's fucked. So you got to imagine it might play in that same way for the opponent that's actually in the cage and actually getting punched in the face. But, like I said, beating a top 15 guy in Neil Magny, was ranked 10 at the time. He's going to jump the queue. I really don't think he's going to fight 8 or 7 next. I will not be surprised if he gets a top 5 fight. I will not be surprised if he gets a Vicente Luque, a Gilbert Burns. I would say Bilal Muhammad. There's just no way I could imagine Bilal Muhammad taking that fight. Bilal seems like somebody he's trying to position himself in a way, which he should. This is no discredit to Bilal, but he's trying to position himself in a way because he's been doing this for a while now. He's been in the UFC for so long. He himself feels, whether you agree or disagree, whether I agree or disagree, he feels like he's being overlooked and he's not getting the opportunities that he thinks he deserves. So for those reasons, I cannot imagine somebody like Bilal Muhammad fighting Rakhmonov. If Rakhmonov jumps to 10 or 9 or 8, somewhere around that range, I can't see him taking that fight. Like, he wants to fight whoever gets him a title shot next. And Rakhmonov, it wouldn't do that. But maybe. I think he called out Wonder Boy. It's a good call out. It's tough, extremely tough fight for Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy has a hard time staying on his feet. Coming from a guy, at one point, if I'm not mistaken, Wonder Boy might have had the best takedown defense in the UFC. Like, he had the highest takedown defense rate in that weight class, at least. And as of recently, that has gone out the window. Gilbert Burns and Bilal Muhammad it was a path to victory, and I think Rakhmonov can see that. And it's tough, man, for Wonder Boy to get older and older, to think that he's going to put on more explosiveness or more just physicality, more natural strength to be able to resist these takedowns, or he's going to learn something at this age that he hasn't already learned about, preventing these takedowns, especially when, like I said, he was kind of known as somebody who, hey, man, it's damn near impossible to take this guy down. So you end up getting a striking battle with him, and his striking, it's almost unmatched. You got to catch him with something wild. You got to catch him with something sneaky, something powerful, because you're not going to outpoint him. You're not going to outpoint him. If you go strike for strike, he's going to start pulling away round by round. So a great call out for Rakhmonov. If that's the position he wants to go, if that's the route he wants to take, he could get that route. I think that's a winnable fight for him. I could easily see him getting Wonder Boy to the floor, getting him to the mat and holding him down. Not to say I wouldn't want to see that fight, not to say that that's what's going to happen, because Wonder Boy still presents that thing, right? If he could just keep this standing. If he could keep it standing, Wonder Boy could hit you with some crazy stuff. And that's why we're always interested to see Wonder Boy fight. But good call out for him. I can see him getting that fight. I could even see him jump in that. And like I said, a Luque or a Gilbert Burns, I can see him getting those type of fights. Still don't know what's going on with Colby. Kind of holding up the division. I think the UFC really wants Colby and Khamzat, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Colby's just going to sit this out and fight. I don't know. Because for Colby, it's hard to imagine that he fights Khamzat. Let's just say he wins and then gets another title shot immediately. It seems like they would kind of want to go a different route. You can't just have those two guys fight 3 times like this quickly. But if whoever Colby beats, it's not going to be somebody easy, right? If he beats Khamzat, if he's beating these guys, you're going to have to see that fight time and time again. At some point, it's just going to get, if Colby just keeps beating off these contenders, pause. If Colby just keeps beating these title contenders, right? If he's the gatekeeper and he keeps stopping these guys from passing, if they can't pass the test of Colby Covington, then we're going to get to a point where it's like, at some point, Usman's going to beat him and then give him the belt. Be like, here, there's nothing left for me to do. Like, you just take it. You know what I mean? You've earned it. You've beaten everybody else. They're going to set up an interim and he'll be champion. He'll fight whoever for it. But obviously, when you throw a guy like Khamzat in, when you throw a guy like Rakhmonov in, it creates a lot of buzz because people just still aren't sold on the Bilal Muhammad's. People still aren't sold on Leon Edwards. Poor Leon, what does he got to do, But the fact remains that he's already lost to Kamaru Usman, so people are going to have, and it wasn't some close fight where he had him hurt and it was a split decision victory. Like, Usman kind of did what he wanted to Leon, and people have that in their mind and say it's going to be that and then some for Leon, and that's why we need that new blood. That's why it's so much hype for Khamzat and Rakhmonov. To pair them up against each other right now, please, UFC, don't do that. Do not do that. Chill out. If they're the fight that everybody knows, whoever wins this is getting the title shot, cool. But don't make it a fight and then like one of them still has to beat Colby to get the title shot. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let them both stay undefeated. The best case scenario is they're the number one contender fight. If you want to make it now, cool. But Rakhmonov's going to get another fight before he gets his like number one contenders fight, which I know the UFC technically doesn't have number one contenders fights, but we've seen them time and time again now. Anyway, where was I? And speaking of Rakhmonov and what I was saying about if he wins, and if he wins in an impressive way, which he did, that everybody's going to be clamoring. Everybody's going to be ready for him to jump the queue. Everyone's going to be talking about him being the champion. It just reminds me of how fickle the UFC community is. I'll check my timeline time and time again. I don't see nothing about Cyril Gane. I don't see nothing about Petr Yan anymore. Those two guys were invincible. 6 months ago? However long ago, right before the day of Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou, those two guys looked invincible. Cyril Gane was the most talented heavyweight of all time. He was the most versatile heavyweight of all time and the slickest. And Ngannou's not going to know. He's not going to be able to touch him. He's not going to see him. Cyril Gane's going to be bouncing in and out, and his grappling is just so much better, and his submissions are so much better. His jiu-jitsu is so much better. He's going to be a heavyweight champion. He's going to beat John Jones. He's going to do all these. He's going to be the heavyweight GOAT. Petr Yan, he's just a couple fights more, a couple more fights away, and he's the 135-pound GOAT. What he did to Aldo, now he's going to beat Aljamain again. Then he's going to beat, you know what I mean? Then he's going to beat Dillashaw. Then he's going to beat this guy. Then he's going to beat that guy, and he's going to be the 135-pound GOAT. I don't see them anymore. But here's the thing. I'm not hating. I want to see them. Those two guys are great. The problem is that we let a couple performances push us to this point of being like this all-time greatness, and I'm cool with that, but stick with it. Stick with that, right? If Hamzat lost to Gilbert Burns, I'm still on the Hamzat train. Sean O'Malley lost to Chito Vera. I'm still on the Sean O'Malley train. You don't have to jump off of it. Too many guys jump off of trains like this. If Sean O'Malley goes out and loses to Pedro Munoz, people jumping off. People jumping off train left and right. People going to laugh. Oh, he's just a can crusher. He can't do this. He can't do that. Why can't they improve? Why can't Petr Yan come back and still be champion? Why can't Cyril Gane come back and improve and still be champion? Especially Cyril Gane. He's so young. We're just so quick to just forget about guys. It's just like, what have you done for me lately? This, which I get. Everything is like that. But damn, it's fickle. It is so fickle in the UFC. These guys, just the fact that like Petr Yan and Cyril Gane don't get talked about anymore is just wild to me. Wow. Remember Davison Figueiredo? Figgy, right? Well, I don't have to say remember, he's the current champion. But again, it was talks about he's going to move up. He's going to fight. Him and Petr Yan is the fight to make. He's going to move up. He's going to win that. He's going to be a 2-division champion. He's the current champion. And I don't even see people talking about him that much. He's the current champion in his weight class. And I don't see that much talking because he's sidelined for a little bit. And but the conversations, you know, even if, yeah, I see people after the fight like, hey, if him and Brandon Moreno fight again, he'll beat Moreno again. And he's going to be the guy. And then maybe if he has a couple more fights, then maybe we'll have those conversations start again. But it was like as soon as he lost to Brandon Moreno, all of those possibilities were out the window, and they're not. They're not out the window. Maybe Moreno was just really, really good. Maybe that was just a tough fight for him. Maybe he got caught. Maybe something happened. Maybe whatever. Maybe Moreno's just really good. And maybe he's not invincible. Maybe being the best is a fraction, is just a tiny amount better than the next person. We think that these guys have these giant leaps in between the necks. Look at Volkanovski. He looked phenomenal against Korean Zombie, right? He looked phenomenal against these guys, but like he still almost lost to Ortega. Dominated him, don't get me wrong, but he was still pretty close, right? He was still locked into a choke against a guy who a lot of people feel like if he gets your neck, it's over. He still pulled it out. Credit to him. He's a monster. But you can see that what these guys are doing is so hard. Cyril Gane getting to a championship fight that quickly is so freaking hard that if he would have beat Francis Ngannou, it shouldn't be expected. You should be going, oh my God, that is insane. Yuri Prochazka, what, third fight in the UFC? Title fight, wins it against Glover, who's had how many UFC fights? That's mind-blowing. Just because he lost, it doesn't mean he's not the same fighter. It just means it didn't go for him. And he was losing on the scorecards. So it doesn't, you see what I'm saying? We don't have to jump off the bandwagon. We just need to realize that being the best, being the champion, can mean that you're just this much better than the next guy. Because that's how hard it is to get to that point. Anyway, last fight on the main card before we jump back into it was the Tsarukyan and Gamrot. Actually, you know what? Before we get into Tsarukyan and Gamrot, sorry, my apologies. Before we get into Tsarukyan and Gamrot, I talked about the scorecards, right? It just dawned on me because I talked about Yuri Prochazka and Glover Teixeira on the scorecards and how Glover was winning on the scorecards, but unfortunately got caught right at the end of the fight. I hadn't addressed this yet, but it just dawned on me now. Like, oh, I haven't addressed this. I should probably address it. Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett. Yes, I know that was a fight night ago. Here's the thing. I have a whole new outlook on the fight because after the fight, I tweeted, and then I said on the podcast, Kattar, in my opinion, won. I personally had 48-47 Kattar, but he wasn't robbed. I think Josh Emmett did enough to maybe slightly edge him. Maybe I just looked at it differently, and if I looked at it a little bit differently than two of the judges, it doesn't mean he was robbed. It just means that, one of those rounds that I felt was really, really close, I slightly gave it to him, but I really didn't know, and they might have felt differently of it. So because of that, he's not robbed. Well, I have an entirely new outlook on that fight. Calvin Kattar was robbed. Calvin Kattar was robbed, and here's why. It's not because the judges were wrong. It's not because I felt that 48-47 was such an obvious and apparent scoring that 3 rounds were so clearly evident that Calvin Kattar won. No, it's because of the actual scorecard itself. It's because the scorecard was ridiculous. One of the judges messed it up. When I went back and saw how they scored it round for round, that's when I was like, what the hell are we looking at? There's no way we were watching the same fight. And I think I know what happened. Or at least I can give a conspiracy theory as to what happened. Let me pull up the actual scorecard for you. I'll have it right here next to me so you guys can see it. But I'm going to pull it up on here so I can see it. So I can tell you the actual judge's name. What happened was a round that was, I think, the most easy to score round for Kattar was given to him by 2 judges and not by one of them, which ends up being the deciding round, which was insane to me. Here it is. Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett. So the 3 judges on the fight were Chris Lee, Doug Crosby, and Sal D'Amato. Anytime you hear Chris Lee, anytime you hear Sal D'Amato, you obviously start worrying. These guys are very well known for bad judges. But here's the thing, Sal D'Amato, in my opinion, Sal D'Amato scorecard, I look at it and I go, yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I can see that happening. He gave the first 3 rounds to Josh Emmett and the last 2 rounds to Calvin Kattar. And that's kind of how I had it as well. Me personally, I gave Calvin Kattar the second round. So I had Kattar rounds 2, 4, and 5. I had Josh Emmett's round 1 and 3. In my opinion, and then, so he had the first 3 rounds going to Josh Emmett. But again, round 2 was the one that was like, ugh. Round 4, round 3, very clear and obvious in my opinion. Round 3, very clear and obvious for Josh Emmett. Round 4, very clear and obvious for Calvin Kattar, in my opinion. Round 5, I think Calvin Kattar got it. Maybe not as obvious as round 4, but Calvin Kattar had a really good round 5. I personally gave that round to Calvin Kattar, and so did all 3 judges. Every round, every judge gave Calvin Kattar the 5th round. Every judge gave Josh Emmett the 3rd round, the 2 obvious ones. Now, Sal D'Amato, Doug Crosby, they had round 2 differently. D'Amato giving round 2 to Emmett, Doug Crosby giving round 2 to Calvin Kattar. So we go, all right, it's all going to be about Chris Lee and how he scored the second round, right? How did Chris Lee score the second round? That should determine the winner. Well, Chris Lee had Calvin Kattar winning the second round. So we go, oh, then Kattar won. Then Kattar won by split decision, right? 48-47, Calvin Kattar on 2 scorecards. Sal D'Amato had Josh Emmett 48-47. No. Chris Lee gave the 4th round, the round that I thought, the round that most people thought, including his fellow judges and Doug Crosby and Sal D'Amato, the most obvious round for Calvin Kattar, he gave that round to Josh Emmett. That was the deciding factor. So I went from, hey, he wasn't robbed. It was a close fight. Could have gone either way. Calvin Kattar wasn't robbed. Then I find out that round 4 was given to Josh Emmett. Now I'm like, well, he was robbed. How, in my opinion, what I think is that Chris Lee let the impact from the 3rd round carry and bleed into the 4th. He was waiting for Calvin Kattar to do something to equalize what had been done to him in the 3rd round. And if he didn't feel like that 4th round did enough to surpass Josh Emmett's 3rd, it stuck with him and he just gave him the 4th too. It's crazy to me how you can give Josh Emmett the 4th round. Now, again, when it comes to Sal D'Amato, no issues. You gave Josh Emmett the first 3 rounds. I felt like there was a real possibility it could be that way. I felt maybe 2-1, maybe 3-0 going into round 4 for Josh Emmett. Maybe 2-1, though. Second round was close. Second round was really close. I had it Calvin Kattar's way, but I said very, very close. Rounds 4, good job, Calvin Kattar. Great bounce back. Won that round for sure. Round 5, Calvin Kattar did just enough. I think he won that round. It's all depending on the second round. So when you find out Chris Lee's deciding round was the 4th, now I feel like Calvin Kattar was robbed. Now I can completely understand if Calvin Kattar feels like he was robbed. So just wanted to leave you guys with that. Don't know how you feel about it. Don't know if you think he was robbed. Do you think that regardless that it doesn't matter? Because you may be saying, hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he gave him the 4th round. At the end of the day, Emmett did enough to win. We feel like Emmett, did enough to win, and he deserves that win, so it doesn't really matter what the score. Or do you say how I feel? Do you feel how I feel? Which is, if the 4th round was the deciding round, then there was a major blunder in the judges then. There was a major screw-up in those scorecards if the 4th round is what decided it. If the second round is what decided it, okay, I can live with it. Calvin Kattar could live with it. When you find out the 4th round is what decided it, I don't know if we can live with that. I don't know if we can live with that. But we're going to have to. Moving on, finally, I'm here. Last fight of the night, Tsarukyan and Gamrot. I told you guys this fight was going to be insane. It was going to be an insane high level of grappling. Both of them are no slouches on the feet. They're both very technical. Neither one of them are going to gas. Neither one of them are going to give up. It was so beautiful, man. Technical. We saw from the very beginning, as soon as the fight opens, Gamrot goes for the takedown. Insane sprawl, insane takedown offense. No, I'm sorry. Tsarukyan goes to the first takedown. Sprawls, finds a way. Gamrot ends up getting to a single high. He tries to get the trip. He has to get the takedown. He can't get the takedown. Like, the grappling exchange from the very first seconds of the fight was evident. Like, oh, we're going to be in for a grappling master class. I even tweeted out, Khabib is a very happy man sitting in the cage side watching this fight. And then he tweeted out after the fight, I want 5 more rounds of that. That was beautiful. I was like, yup, right up his alley. Just a master class of grappling. This, when I talked about Umar Nurmagomedov and it being boring, this is what happens when grappling's fun. Neither one of them had much control time. Neither one of them did a whole lot of damage when they did get takedowns. Neither one of them were anywhere near a submission attempt. But the technicality, and you can see them having to change their angles, change their ways of having to get in. How am I going to get in on this shot? How am I going to take down? Because this isn't working. Now I got to alter my game plan. Now I have to adjust to what this guy's doing. I have to adjust in my shot attempts to get this guy to the ground. And then in the stand-up, it was just so tit for tat, back and forth. The thing I loved in this fight that Tsarukyan was doing was Gamrot, and I think Bisping, if I'm not mistaken, alluded to it. He talked about it in the fight, where every time Gamrot would go southpaw, right, left hand back, right hand forward, every time he would go southpaw, Tsarukyan would blast a right kick to the body, right? Tsarukyan was orthodox, left hand forward, right hand back, so it opens up that side of your body, and he was just blasting body kicks, and it showed you like how crisp the game plan and how deep the game plan was, the film that was watched on it, because the reason why Gamrot would go to that southpaw is because he would throw a left hand, and then ankle pick with his right hand, and then get into a single high and try to get a takedown that way. That's his go-to. That's his bread and butter. Go watch any of his previous fights. He's gotten so many takedowns that way. It's so damn hard to defend. And you saw how hard it was to defend for Tsarukyan, because he still got to the ankle. He still got to the single high. He still was able to get that treetop. And Tsarukyan was doing a stand-up split. One foot on the ground, the other foot up above his head like this in order to stay balanced, and just hopping back on one foot, preventing the takedown. It was brilliant to watch. It was just a master class of grappling exchanges. The body kicks were beautiful, being able to do that. And for Gamrot, he just got to a point in the 4th and 5th round where he started changing levels at the right time. His shot, I don't remember if it was the 4th or the 5th, where he got in on a beautiful takedown. I mean, just beautiful timing, swung to the back immediately. He almost, when he got the takedown, it was almost like I'll have it here for you guys. Just beautiful. You can't see a better looking takedown than that against a guy who was this high level. Such a high level match. Very, very, very close. I would have hated to be a judge in that fight. Gamrot does get the unanimous decision. I was surprised that it was unanimous. Not that it makes any huge difference, but I felt like one judge would have gave it to Tsarukyan, but all 3 judges actually gave it to Gamrot. Haven't seen the scorecard come out yet. That might change my opinion on how I feel. Me personally, I would have to watch it again a few times. It was just so hard. I had it the first time I watched it. I thought going into the scorecard, going into the reading of the scorecards, I thought Tsarukyan had it. I thought Tsarukyan 48-47. When Gamrot was called, I was like, ooh, tough one. But again, I'm going to say it, but I also said it in the Calvin Kattar and Josh Emmett fight. I personally think Tsarukyan won, but I don't think he was robbed. I think Gamrot, it was just so close. I would have to go back and watch it a few more times. Even after I watched it a few more times. So, I've seen it twice now. I saw it, when it happened live, and then I went to go back and watch it yesterday, Sunday, and I still was like, yeah, I can see where he gets it. I can see where Gamrot gets the 3 rounds here. I could see where Tsarukyan would get 3 rounds here. I think the biggest decider of that was round 3 or round 2. I think round 3 or round 2, because the way I had it was Tsarukyan 1, 2, and 3, and then Gamrot 4 and 5. If I'm not mistaken, I would have to go back. I can't remember exactly which rounds I had it scored as. But, the biggest factor is, you prevented the takedowns beautifully for the first 2-3 rounds. And then Gamrot starts getting them and starts having a little bit more success, a little bit more control time. And even though it wasn't much, even though there wasn't a lot of damage that came to it, I think it just played a bigger factor into the judges to go, oh, this is happening because he is fresher. He's winning the war of attrition. And it did seem that way. It did seem for 5th round. In this fight, I really do feel like if we said, hey, unlimited rounds, we're just going to go 5 minutes, stop, 1 minute break, 5 minutes, stop, 1 minute break, and we're going to go till someone gives. I truly feel like Tsarukyan would have gave before Gamrot. I really do. Just because of the 4th and 5th round, I started seeing Tsarukyan getting to the point where he was like, yo, this isn't as easy as it was in round 2, round 3 to defend these takedowns, where Gamrot starts going, oh, I'm finally having success with these takedown attempts. I'm finally getting in. My timing is actually a little bit better on these shots. There's a little less resistance. He has a little bit less explosiveness, a little bit less. The scrambles, all the scrambles were incredible. When they finally got takedowns, Gamrot, Granby rolling out, it was beautiful to watch, man. Everything about this fight, so high level. You couldn't ask for a better main event. You couldn't ask for a better 5 rounds. I agree with Habib. Give me 5 more rounds of it. It was so good. If you haven't seen it, go to ESPN Plus, watch it. ESPN Plus should sponsor me at this point. I always tell everyone to get ESPN Plus. But it was unbelievable. We're going to go through the prelims real quick, and then we'll finish off with the announcement that was made of a future Fight Night card. Mario Bautista opened up the card in the prelims. Super sharp. He looked really, really sharp. He was fighting against Brian Kelleher. Brian Kelleher, veteran of the game. He's been around for a while now. He's got some pretty good wins, some tough losses. He's kind of up and down. Vanessa Diamopoulos actually opened up against Jing Fry. Another win, split decision win for Vanessa. It wasn't a terrible fight, but it wasn't great. Vanessa jumps on Michael Bisping the way she did against Joe Rogan. That's probably the most exciting thing I could talk about that fight. Anyway, moving forward. Sorry, Vanessa. Shout out, Vanessa. Great job. Don't mean to shit on you. But Mario Bautista, Brian Kelleher. Bautista looked incredible. Sharp, fast. Mario Bautista has been training with Sugar Sean O'Malley. Another Sugar Sean O'Malley plug. But he's been training with them going into this fight. They called Mario Bautista, offered him this fight. Not super short notice, but kind of. He said, yeah, I'm kind of already in camp with Sugar Sean. Let's go ahead and do it. They worked as each other's training partners. And leading up to it, the only reason I mentioned Sugar Sean in this regard was because Sean kept talking about Mario Bautista. Now, is Sean always going to talk about his training partners and boost them up? Yeah, of course, everybody does, right? Everybody is going to say that his training partner is going to win. Everybody's going to talk about their training partner saying they're going to get this win, for sure. Israel Adesanya just said on his YouTube channel that Volkanovski is going to knock out Max Holloway, and you know what I mean? Like he's gonna piece him up. He's gonna land huge shots. He's gonna finish him. It's like, I mean, maybe, but like, do you really feel that way? You're like, that's your boy. You know what I mean? Like when that's your boy, what else are you gonna say? What is he gonna say? It's gonna be a tough fight. Maybe Volkan, maybe edge him, but I don't know, man. Max could beat him. Like, no, he's gonna be like, that's my dog. My dog's knocking him out. Plain and simple. I feel it. But the other reason that O'Malley might feel a little more invested in this fight is that Brian Kelleher was somebody who was talking crap, calling Sean O'Malley out from the very beginning. As soon as Sean O'Malley got a little bit of pop in the UFC, as soon as he had his UFC debut, he had, I think, his second fight, broke his foot. As soon as he came back and beat Quinones, Brian Kelleher was one of those guys. Kelleher, Ricky Simone, and I forget who the other one was, that was very vocal on Sean O'Malley. Very, very vocal. Very, very adamant on fighting him, wanting to take kind of that thunder and that clout he had chasing him, that clout around him. They wanted a piece of it. Kelleher was talking a lot of crap on social media, and Sean engaged, went back and forth. So this probably added a little more where he really wanted to see Mario Bautista beat him up. But he said before the fight, Sean O'Malley, that is, he was like, man, Mario is fast. Like, he's sharp. He's quick. His striking is slick, his wrestling slick. Like, the dude's good, man. Like, he's been improving. He's damn good. I think he's gonna make light work of Kelleher. Now, again, did he really believe that, or is it something that he was kind of hoping and hoping that he could see his boy take care of somebody that he's had these little run-ins with? I don't know, but it played out exactly the way he said. On the feet, Brian Kelleher's, again, guys, I always talk about these paths to victory. In MMA, you need multiple paths to victory. It's just that point in time now. You can't be a one-trick pony anymore. At some point, you're going to meet somebody who can stop that trick, who can prevent you from getting that trick off, and then what? And then what do you do? So whenever you start seeing paths to victories diminish, you're in big shit. You start becoming in huge trouble, and it happened very quickly for Brian Kelleher. Because when I saw that, I said, Brian Kelleher has a big right hand. He can still put people's lights out. Even at 135, he's got power behind him. And when I see him missing bad, and Bautista just looking sharp, popping him with a jab, getting reads out of him, being too quick, in and out fast, I was like, oh, this might be some trouble. But, let's say he takes 10 punches but lands one, and his one just does more damage. That's Brian Kelleher in a nutshell. It could happen. And then I see Mario Bautista say, I'm going to wrestle this dude. Takes him down, gets to his positions pretty quickly, ends up getting the first round submission, rear naked choke against Brian Kelleher. Kind of made light work of him. It really did seem like a no contest. It happened quickly. Mario Bautista, like I said, just looked too fast, too sharp. Kelleher looked a bit slow. It was just the quickness, not necessarily just physical quickness, but mental quickness. It seemed like just the sharpness of Bautista looked like he was on a different level. I don't know if Kelleher maybe just went in there, just wasn't his day. He wasn't feeling right. He felt slow. I don't know, but it just didn't go his way at all. Cody Durden, first round KO over JP Buys. I really like the way that Durden popped the jab to see the response of JP. He came out, kind of popped the jab a few times. JP gave absolutely no reaction to him. Usually, whenever someone pops a jab in your face, you're going to see some type of reaction, right? Is he pulling back? Is he slipping? Is he looking for counters? What is he doing? And he just kind of stood there. He just kind of barely moved his face. He didn't feel like it was going to hit him, so he just kind of stood there, and Durden was like, all right. Very next one, double jab, straight right hand, pops him, hurts him. After that, he woke up a little bit, after Cody hit him, wobbled him. I can't remember if he dropped him with that one, but he definitely hurt him. And then afterwards, JP Buys kind of woke up, started getting a little bit more aggressive, started reacting a little bit more. But at that point, it didn't matter. Cody felt confident, came forward, cracked him again, got the finish with some shots on the ground, got the TKO victory. Shout out Cody Durden. Really, really solid fight for him. Really good fight on the card. TJ Brown against Nuerdanbieke, however you say his name. Shailen Nuerdanbieke. All right. Listen, I mean, come on, man. How many fucking letters can you have in a name? There should be a legal, you shouldn't be allowed to have this many letters in your name. You should be like, hey, man, We got to cut this down. How many letters in this bitch is silent? Cut them out. We don't need them. Right? What does Cat Williams say? Get those quiet ass motherfuckers out of there then. You can't give me names like this. But it was a phenomenal fight. Great fight to watch. 29-28 unanimous decision for not TJ Brown. I had it the same way. I had 1 and 3 to Shylin. I had, rounds 1 and 3 to Shylin. TJ actually got on top in the about 45 seconds left in the third round. Bryce Mitchell, I think, was the highlight of this fight for me. The fight was good. Don't get me wrong. The fight was really, really good. High level, back and forth. We saw each guy get their positions. We saw each guy have a little bit of success on the feet. But the highlight to me was Bryce Mitchell in the corner of TJ Brown. He was one of his cornermen, and Bryce Mitchell was giving unbelievable advice. Like, Bryce Mitchell's fight IQ, it wasn't just throw this, watch out for this. It was timing, positional, understanding scorecard, understanding what the judges want to see and reacting to it. Like, there was a moment where TJ Brown got on top of him with 45 seconds left in the fight. The third round, right, which was the deciding round. Like I said, I had it going into the third round 1 apiece. All the judges had it going into the third round 1 apiece. So the third round was a deciding factor there. Shylin had the majority of control. He was winning the majority of the third round. And with 45 seconds left, TJ gets on top, and Bryce Mitchell understood the situation. He said, abandon submissions, abandon positioning, don't try to pass, rain shots. He was like, shots, throw bombs, everything, unleash everything. Empty the gas, throw as many shots as you can, because if you just start landing, maybe that pulls you and wins you the round. He tried it. Didn't quite have enough gas to pull it off. He was still trying to look for positional changes, and shout out to Shylin. He did what he was supposed to do, and he made sure that he was able to transition and threaten to get up. He was definitely pushing on the hips, trying to get up, so it forced TJ Brown to have to address the position. I believe he was in half or full mount, but he was having to address that, and he couldn't just posture up and rain out shots the way Bryce Mitchell was saying. But Bryce Mitchell was spot on, man. Even in the corner, when he was talking to him about how to secure a takedown, you can see Bryce Mitchell's IQ level is really, really high. And a guy who, unfortunately, because of his political beliefs and some of the things he said, which some of them I agree with 100%, some of them I could not disagree with more. But people, for some reason, like, if you say something from a political aspect, or you say something where it's like, dude, if anybody expects Bryce Mitchell to be an expert on all these topics that no one even knows about, you know what I mean? Like, this. So if he says something from a political realm that we disagree with, now he's dumb. Like, people have this idea that Bryce Mitchell's just like this stupid country bumpkin, and it's like, dude, listen to the way he's talking. Apparently, the thing he cares about, the thing he's making his profession, the thing he's making money in, which is fighting, very intelligent dude, knows exactly what to get to. Like, Bryce Mitchell may be a lot of things. Stupid is not one of them. He is not stupid, and you can hear it in that corner. His fight IQ is high freaking level, man. I loved hearing Bryce Mitchell in that cage side, because it gives you an idea and puts you into his mind and maybe what he's thinking when he's fighting, and why he's been so dominant and why he's been so good this fast, this early in his UFC career, and why he's a legit problem in his weight class. Last fight I want to talk about, Carlos Ulberg, Tayfon Chukwi. Unbelievable fight. Carlos Ulberg, handsome fella. Listen, I don't like men, but Carlos Ulberg's a handsome devil. I was like, he kind of reminds me of? He's kind of like the new Luke Rockhold to me, where it's like people almost dislike him because he's so good looking. He's tall, chiseled, just great bone structure. Sounding real gay right now, but handsome devil, and like people want to see him get knocked out because of it. Like Luke Rockhold, and granted, Luke Rockhold had some prick things that he would do and say that people would also not agree with. So it wasn't like Luke Rockhold was just this great guy, just had this infectious, beautiful personality, and just because he was handsome, people wanted him to lose. Like, no, Luke Rockhold's a little bit of a dick too. But they look at Carlos Ulberg, and I have not heard Carlos Ulberg say much, but already he has this this thing that he's just this cocky, arrogant dude. And it's like, yo, maybe the dude just got it like that. Like, maybe he just nice with it. Beautiful performance for Carlos Ulberg. He's part of the City Kickboxing with Israel Adesanya and that whole team. They were in the crowd, but Ulberg just beautiful. But Ulberg wobbles him, left hook, comes in, kind of catches him a little bit of a left hook, wobbles him, follows up, super aggressive, gets to finish. City Kickboxing, that team, Volkanovski, Brad Riddell, Israel Adesanya, they're going crazy on the bleachers. They're going crazy in the stands. I couldn't imagine more fun. Imagine your teams watching you. And Ulberg coming off of a win, but he also had a loss. I think his debut was a loss. And then he beat, can't remember exactly who he beat his second fight. He had a loss, then gets a win. Hasn't put together the performance that you would really expect, though, because we kept hearing a lot of things, especially out of Israel and that City Kickboxing team is like, yo, Carlos Ulberg is a problem, man. Like, he can put people's lights out. He's nice. He's athletic. He's fast. He's powerful. Like, all these things that we hear about him, and just hasn't quite given us that performance yet. So finally to do it, and you do it in front of your guys, and they are fighting next weekend. Now you're going to be there cheering them on. It's like, start it off the right way, represent for your team, for your club, for your gym the right way, and then have them screaming. And you're in the apex, so it's not like they're in the stands where you kind of see them from a distance and you see them going crazy, but you can't hear them. Like, he hears exactly how they're yelling, what they're saying, and he's being able to talk to them. Like, really good fight for Carlos Ulberg. I couldn't imagine a better high for him. This has to be the highlight so far of his UFC career. Hopefully he keeps it going, man. Again, I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater at all. And lastly, fight card was announced. UFC Fight Night New York has been announced. Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez. That has always been announced. That is a fight I hate. I hate because I love both of those guys, man. Two of my favorite fighters. I hated when Yair fought Holloway. I know how many guys do I like in that weight class. But at 145, like, my three favorite fighters are Holloway, Ortega, and Yair. The rest, you know what I mean? Like, Now, obviously, I understand the three, but if I'm being honest with you guys, my favorite fighter in that weight class is Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega is my guy. I've just always been rocking with Brian Ortega. Very active on social media, just like the stuff he does. I don't know, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I feel like it's just a relatable thing. You know, being Mexican-American, I feel like he kind of grew up in the same kind of household, grew up with the same type of family members and stuff that I did growing up in El Paso, Texas. Obviously, he's from California. But other than the weather, the cultural differences between the Mexican families from California or Texas aren't too different, man. We're eating the same food. We're listening to the same music. Family members have the same Spanglish. Grandparents probably don't speak any English. Like, the similarities are there. So when I hear him talk and I hear him say stuff, I'm just like, yeah, it reminds me of my cousin. It reminds me of me. That's kind of the same. That's kind of how I would approach it. That's kind of how I would feel about it. So it's just my ability to relate to Brian Ortega, man. Has always, he's always had a soft spot in my heart. I love Brian Ortega. At the same time, Yair Rodriguez, Mexicans can be, man, and just slick. I mean, outside of the reason why I like Yair is the same reason I like Max Holloway, because they're so damn slick. Like, their striking is just, I could watch it time and time again. That Yair and Holloway fight, I mean, I've probably seen it 5 times now. I posted on Twitter like 2 days ago. Just a sequence from that fight where I'm like, I could watch this fight over and over again. It's so beautiful to watch. It's so fun to watch. Yair throws the craziest shit. So because of that, I'm hurt. I don't want to see them fight. It has to happen though. And I gotta stay true to my boy, man. I gotta root for Brian Ortega, which really, really sucks because the last thing I want for Yair is to come in and have 2 losses in a row after being out for 2 years. But I believe in Yair. I believe that even if he loses this fight, which, granted, I feel like this is a very winnable fight for Yair. I do. Very winnable fight for Yair. But if he loses, I still feel Yair's going to be there, man. I just feel like his striking is so damn good. He just presents so many problems for people. It's just unfortunate that he comes in and gets my 2 favorite fighters right off the bat. Max Holloway and Brian Ortega just like this. I'm like, what the hell? Why are you doing this to me? But he came in and he didn't take a warm-up fight. He didn't take none of that. Straight to Max Holloway. Dana White, Sean Shelby, UFC, to Max Holloway, his first fight back. You know, give him the Conor McGregor treatment. Let him fight a cowboy. You know what I mean? Give him something else. Max Holloway. He would have had one fight in the championship. If he beat Max, he would have for sure, he would have fought Volkanovski next. That's how good Yair is. That's how good he was pre-injury, pre-time off. So, tough fight for Brian, but I hope T-City gets it done. Really sucks for Yair if he loses. Sucks even worse for Brian if he loses. Then where do we go? A big climb back. If Brian loses this one, we're probably talking about 3 fights before he gets another title shot. 3 wins before he gets another title shot. So, tough. Michelle Waterson, Amanda Lemos is on that one. Lemos' last fight was a loss to Jessica Andrade, if you remember. Tough fight for Lemos, but she was surging. She looked like a problem. She was on a 5-fight win streak before that one. And then Waterson, opposite effect, right? Lost 3 of her last 4. But the 3 that she's lost, Mariana Rodriguez, Carla Esparza, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. You know what I mean? Like, not very. The one that she won was Angela Hill. So her level of competition definitely a lot higher than Amanda Lemos. But Amanda Lemos has had the recent success. Where is Michelle Waterson at now? Has her age affected her in any way? Has she slowed down any bit? If she loses this fight, if Michelle Waterson loses this one, that's 4 of her last 5 fights is a loss. That would be 3 in a row. You know what I mean? Maybe we get to the point where we start calling it quits for Michelle Waterson. It's hard for me to imagine a path to championship contendership again, to champion contendership again for Michelle Waterson. It's hard for me to envision that right now in her career. So, but if she gets this win, in her mind, she's like, if I get this win, I'm going to get another big name. I think I could beat any of those girls that I lost to. I think I could beat them again, or I'll beat them this time. And, she still believes in herself. So carry on to you, Michelle Waterson. Do your thing. But if she loses, how many more, you'd have to imagine the win streak she'd have to get on to get back to that point. At her age, she's been doing this for so long. OG of the game. If she loses personally, I would like to see her retire, but who the fuck am I, Ricky Simone, Jack Shore, that's going to be a banger. Really pulling for Jack Shore. Like I said, if I'm team somebody, I'm team somebody. I don't jump off the bandwagon. So Ricky Simone talking all that shit about Sean O'Malley. All right, here's Jack Shore. Jack Shore's a problem. Jack Shore's a beast, unbeaten, 5-0 in the UFC. 2 wins by rear naked choke, 3 by decision. Not putting dudes lights out, but Jack Shore has a good game. Good takedown defense. Ricky Simone, though, high-level grappler. High-level grappler. He's on a 4-fight win streak. His last loss was to Rob Font in 2019. This is Ricky Simone. So it's going to be a real test for Jack Shore. It's going to be a real test for both of them. That's a sneaky fight. And then the last fight that I want to talk about on that card, Shane Burgos, Charles Jourdain. Yeah, it's going to be a great fight too. So another card. Again, guys, this isn't a pay-per-view. This is a free fight night card with those bangers of fights. It's going to be wild. I cannot wait for it. But we'll be back Wednesday for the next episode. Thank you guys so much for being here. As always, have a great Monday night. I'll see you Wednesday. Peace.